to talk about how we can eat better, how eating clean, man, can change your life. And so he's been 3 years 100% plant-based. He presents, this is one of the other things you need to know, he presents free seminars all around the city on the health benefits of living a plant-based life. And so you'll be able to find him in Oklahoma City and go to some of these seminars. They're totally free, and they happen at different places. You'll be able to find on the website. And so would you please welcome to the show for the very first time, my friend, Randy Titony. Thank you, bro.
Absolutely, my friend. Great to be here.
I'm so glad you're here, man.
Absolutely.
So let's hear just a little bit about your journey. You know,
Sure.
what got you to the place of eating 100% plant-based?
Well, first off, if you would have asked me even 5 years ago, hey, do you think you could give up meat? I would have not only believed you, I would have probably bet that I couldn't or that I wouldn't. I, like most everybody else, thought that everything we ate fueled our bodies, and meat and chicken and pork and turkey and fish and all of those things that we've been taught our whole lives were the things that brought good health. And I had a little bit of a transformation, maybe a little bit of a spiritual awakening. I adopted a beautiful, sweet soul from China when she was 10 months old. And about a little over 3 years ago, she patted me on the belly and said, "Daddy, you're getting fat." And then my 80-year-old mother says, "You know, you're getting kind of fat." And I noticed that I was tired and achy and irritable all the time. I'd get up out of bed, and it took me a long time to get around. And I just thought, you know, there's something wrong here. So I do physical therapy for a living. I was in a nursing home that we provide services in. And I kind of just stood there and looked around and thought, you know, there's nothing really separating me from these people except a few years, 10, 20, 30 years. I said, you know, I don't think God is going to look down on me and say, "Randy, you've been a really good guy. You've done a lot of great therapy. I'm going to spare you from injury and illness and disease and disability." From what I know, it just doesn't work like that.
Right, it's not magic.
No, it's not. And so I went to my doctor and I said, "I'm tired, I'm irritable, I don't feel good, I'm all of these things. I'm drinking 5-hour energy or these, you know, stimulant drinks to keep going all the time." And he said, "You need to eat skinless chicken, and you need to eat salmon, and you need to eat Greek yogurt, and you need to be drinking milk, and all of these things." And I thought, well, isn't that what everybody else is doing? And so I ran into a good buddy of mine who introduced me to what we call the Grand Prix of Epidemiology, a book called The China Study. I read that book, and I realized that everything I had learned, everything I'd been taught, everything I knew about nutrition wasn't true. Wow. And so immediately I flipped the switch. And I said, when you look around the world, the places in the world where people live the longest, they eat a plant-powered, plant-centered, plant-strong, however you want to say it, plant-based diet.
Wow.
So that's what the science says.
Right. And so you've been eating that way for 3 years.
3 years as of last week, cold turkey, no meat, no beef, chicken, pork, turkey, or any other fowl.
Oh, let's talk. Okay, so before we get to I think you kind of set the listeners up to go, okay, I need to hear what this guy has to say.
Absolutely.
Right. I think everybody listening, if you knew you could add more years to your life just by eating wisely, who wouldn't want to do that?
Absolutely.
Right? That's like a no-brainer.
But the other thing is, it's not just adding years to your life. And I hate to be real trite. It's adding life to your years.
Right.
We're not living longer. We are dying longer.
Wow. Wow.
People are living longer, but they don't feel good. They're not vibrant. They're not working. They're in nursing homes, and they're in wheelchairs, and they're on walkers. And
right.
So I want people to feel good.
Right. And live well.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, let's talk about the idea that there is food that is causing our health problems.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about what does the damage of meat or especially chicken. I have to say, you know, I live in a world as a speaker where there's chicken served at everything.
Right.
Right. I mean, every church deal, every get together, every potluck. If I go to an event, you know, we even now have Christian chicken, which is even hard to believe. Right, but talk about these. I'm not. I know what free-range chicken is. I'm not sure what a Christian chicken is, but I know that it exists. But let's talk about the effects. What does that do to our bodies?
Well, the thing that I want people to know is I have no hidden agenda.
Right.
And that the food that we eat, especially chicken, everything that we know about these foods, we've been educated or taught or driven that information to us by people that really stand to benefit from that information. Okay? So the chicken industry tells us that it's high in protein and it's low in saturated in fat. And the things that chicken bring to us are not good. For example, there's a study done in Europe, the EPIC study, the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer. They took thousands of people, studied them over a period of decades, and realized that if you eat 50 grams of chicken a day, 50 grams is about a quarter of a chicken breast. That's a couple of nuggets.
Right.
Okay? Every day you eat those, you increase your risk of lymphoma threefold. So, if people are unaware, cancer is the #2 killer in America behind heart disease. What does chicken do? It promotes heart disease. It promotes cancer. It promotes obesity. It feeds into type 2 diabetes and chronic fatigue and other illnesses and injuries. We don't need animal proteins or animal-based products to be healthy, vibrant people.
Right. It's amazing to me because, you know, we've had one of your friends on the show before.
Absolutely.
That talked about, you know, that everyone, we have all this research about finding the cure to cancer, and he said in many ways we've already found it.
Absolutely.
Right? And we're doing walks and marathons and raising money, and it really, a lot of it could be ended if we just ate better.
The premise of the China study was the premier of China looked, he was dying of esophageal cancer, and he said, I want to commission a study to look at why are there areas in China where there is no cancer virtually? If you look at the map of the United States, breast cancer, colon cancer, esophageal cancer, it's rampant everywhere. It's really steady across the board in every state. You look at China, there are pockets and areas and places in China where breast cancer is non-existent, where esophageal cancer, colon cancer, all these things are basically non-existent. And you look at their diet, it's the food. It comes down to this.
Right.
If you eat the same things that most Americans eat, you're going to get the same diseases that most Americans get. Two-thirds of Americans now are obese.
Right.
It's getting worse all the time. It's the food we eat.
Right.
When people say, oh, it can't be, I say, how can it not be? Look at the food you're eating. Look at what it's doing to people.
Right.
Heart disease, the #1 killer. It's getting worse all the time.
Right. You know, I have to say for our listeners, I'm right there with you because I'm entering into my 4th year of eating this way.
Right.
Like I haven't had meat in 4 years. I've been eating clean.
Right.
In the last 4 years, I've lost 70 pounds by doing that.
Right.
The stuff that I struggled with trying to overcome all kind of took care of themselves when I started to eat clean. So, like, you know, you're preaching to the choir today, man.
I'm preaching to the preacher.
Right? You got a fan on this side.
Right.
This is not pretend to me because I've
Right.
lived right there at it, right? So, but one of the big questions is, you know, I always get is, if you're not going to do meat, then how does someone get their protein?
Right. And I love when people give me that question because it's it's a segue, it's an intro into the whole nutrition side of that.
Which is why I ask it.
Absolutely. Well, the thing that we don't realize is, #1, we don't need near the amount of protein that we've been led to believe that we need. Not anywhere near. So I always ask people, so we know what a calcium deficiency is, right? Oh yeah, it's osteoporosis, it's softening of bones. I say, well, what's a protein deficiency? Virtually nobody knows. My friends in the medical community know, but virtually no one else knows because it's virtually non-existent. If you eat what I say from the rainbow, if you eat from the symphony, you're not going to have a protein deficiency. There is protein in almost all of the foods we eat, from bananas to kale to spinach to quinoa to black beans to brown rice to eggplant to zucchini to all of those things.
Right.
There is enough protein for all of us. All I know is I've been eating this way for 3 years. You've been eating this way for 4 years. I've never had a lack of protein or any issues associated with a lack of protein.
Right. And so I'd like to point out, what about gorillas? What about gorillas? They're giant.
Absolutely.
What about gorillas?
Well, gorillas, let's say I use this for an example all the time. People think you need to eat meat to be strong as an ox,
right,
not knowing that the ox eats grass.
Right, exactly.
So when people say, so where do you get your protein? I say I get my protein the same place. The ox, the elephant, the rhinoceros, the silverback gorilla,
right,
koala, deer, zebras, giraffes, I can go on and on.
Right,
We're
right.
not talking about the zoo.
Right, exactly. And they're not having to do runs to raise funds for research,
no,
right?
No, they're not.
They're all doing fine.
They are absolutely not.
Right.
When you look at the places in the world where people live the longest, they eat a plant-centered diet, very little to no meat at all, and none of this stuff about dieting. We're not talking about a diet. We're talking about a lifestyle
right,
to live a vibrant, healthy life way up into our centenarian years,
right,
to be 100.
You don't live to eat, you eat to live, right? That's
Absolutely.
the difference. We're not living to, it's what's happened to me is it's changed my perspective,
right,
of food. And so now when I see fast food commercials,
right,
like I don't hear the words, I just see people going, hey, how about a box of lymphoma?
Absolutely.
Right? How about another round of autism?
Absolutely.
Right?
Here's a heart attack. Here's
right,
a stroke. And then what I think of is that guy who thinks, oh yeah, we had a cookout at the football game, we had ribs and sausage and all this stuff. And I think, yeah, you're going to be thinking different when they're wheeling you into the heart hospital and you're crying for your mom or your wife because
right,
there's an elephant sitting on your chest.
Right. And people are really basically dying a slow death by eating that. They don't feel
Absolutely.
it, but every day. So let's say we got somebody watching that's got all that junk in their house, like
right,
all the cookies and the chicken and
right,
all that mess. So
right,
what's the entry level? Give our listeners where do they start? What's the first thing they could do today to get started?
Well, there was a great philosopher, William of Ockham. I say it's Occam's razor, which says, given a set of circumstances, the simplest answer is the right one until proven otherwise. So I say, eat this acronym G-BOMBS: greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds, and nuts. Eat plants and vegetables and fruits, nuts, and seeds. Eat avocado and black beans and brown rice and quinoa and any sort of salad. You want to add some nuts to it. Someone at home is going to say, yeah, but nuts are high in fat and avocado is high in fat. If you're trying to lose some weight, you might cut back on those. Yes, we need some fats, but those things will tend to help people lose weight if they don't add so much of them. So I eat all sorts of things, whole wheat pasta with tomato sauce and some fresh veggies on top of those, but I keep it simple. It doesn't have to be elaborate. I eat a lot of the same things kind of over and over. Breakfast, I have I have oatmeal, or there is some plant-based yogurts out there that I've tried that I like, but oatmeal virtually every day. And I add fruits and nuts and flaxseed and those things that, again, have been shown to promote health, to fight heart disease, to fight cancer, to fight disability and obesity and all of those things. And it's so simple. And so I have people go, oh, all that food doesn't taste good. And I just chuckle and say, I wouldn't eat food that doesn't taste good.
Right, that's right.
I just wouldn't do it. And so it's a very simple thing. But again, you have to want to be healthy and live a very healthy life more than you want a cheeseburger. And until you do, until you can say, look, I want to be healthier more than I want to eat a cheeseburger.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right. You have to want to do it. And and the reason why I wanted you on the show today is that part of this is spiritual. Like
Right.
for me, like when I started eating like this, it cleared my spirit up.
Absolutely.
And it cleared my mind up.
Right.
Right, to the point that it affected the way that I did ministry and even the way it affected my preaching. And so it had a spiritual impact. And I did it really first to try to get my spirit right, and my body followed.
Sure.
And so I think we need to say to people that regardless of what shape or state you think you're in, it's never too late to start to do it right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
You can make the change today. I don't care if you've had a stent, a bypass, you've been diagnosed with cancer. The science supports this. There was a study done by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn of the Cleveland Clinic, the #1 heart center in the world. He took 20 patients and he said, I want the 20 sickest patients that you have. They brought him these 20 patients. 2 of them right away said, we can't do this. 18 of those patients, he said, no animal products, eat fruits, nuts, seeds, plants and vegetables, no added oil. 20 years later, 14 of those patients are still alive.
Wow.
These patients have been people that have been sent home to die.
Right.
They had had 45 invasive cardiac procedures. It's the food we eat.
Right. And I think it's no accident. You know, the Old Testament points out how long people lived.
Right.
You know, and Daniel, the stand he took in the midst of the culture and said, I'm not going to eat your food. I'm not going to eat from the king's table. I'm going to do and eat the way God wants me to. That all these guys had huge, long lifespans.
Right.
Right. And so, well, I'm so glad you got to be here today. And my prayer is that this will help people to have a wake-up call that it's never too late to change things. And, you know, one of the things I've seen is that when you eat terrible, right, when you eat bad food, it feeds this appetite for more bad food within you.
Absolutely.
And when you start to eat clean, it squelches that thing.
Right.
So this is not just an accident, right? We don't just happen. The blessings of the Lord sometimes are based on the choices that we make, right? We don't just live any way we want to live and all of a sudden expect to pop into good health. I wish it were that way, but I think that in Scripture, God's given us a plan to know how to do this, and that if we learn how to eat clean and to eat well, that the result is a long life, right? I mean, I would be that, you know, it would be that your soul would prosper even as your body prospers, right?
Absolutely.
This is the will of God for us. And so if you're tuning in today and maybe no one's ever told you that your life could be different, you don't have to enter into a bunch of endless diets and trying to struggle to give up stuff. You can just start to eat clean, and man, it'll awaken what's going on inside of you. Now, the whole driving force of this, of course, is the Spirit of the Lord, right? When you give your life to Christ, that means He becomes Lord of everything, not just our hearts, our souls, but also our bodies, right? So God's able to change our appetites, our drives, the things that we liked that we knew were destructive, but we ate them anyway, right? It's never too late to turn things around. He is the Lord of all life. You see it? And so if you've never given your life to Christ, if you've never experienced His peace or His presence, during the show, there'll be a number at the bottom of the screen, 888-731-1000, and you can call into there and someone will pray with you and pray for you as well. And so any last words, any last challenges you want to leave with our listeners today?
Well, I just want to make sure that people know that whatever disease or disability that they are fighting right now, the food is the answer. Until we start thinking about our food, we are going to continue down this path of destruction. Your genes do not control your health destiny. Everything you put in your mouth either feeds heart disease, cancer, diabetes, or it fights it. And we can take control of our health destiny.
So it's a good word. Good word. So, man, start today by trusting in the Spirit of Jesus.